Call the April 18, 2024 Reno County Planning Commission meeting to order. Staff, will you call the roll?
Schwertfeger. Strand.
Here.
Schaefer. Seltzer. Here. Macklin.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Gertson.
Here. Welcome to everyone here. We've got a couple items on the agenda this evening. At this time, hope this panel has had a chance to review the packet that you've received. In that packet was the minutes from the March 21st meeting. Chair will entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
A second.
Got that? Okay, been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the March 21st, 2024 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes approved. The Kansas Supreme Court has defined a conditional use permit public hearing as a quasi-judicial function to ensure the rights of all parties of interest and provide an opportunity for each party to address the Planning Commission in an orderly manner. The Planning Commission will follow the fact-finding procedure which is outlined in each chair. Your attention to this procedure is appreciated. If a recommendation is made tonight, that recommendation will be based upon the record of information presented to the Planning Commission. The County Commissioners will not conduct a separate public hearing or accept additional written documents. The County Commissioners will consider written requests for additional public comment or documents based only on valid claims that the public hearing process was incomplete or based upon new information which has become available since the public hearing. For purposes of the County Commission policy, the public hearing is considered incomplete only if the Planning Commission failed to follow its procedural guidelines, which resulted in a denial of due process to a party of interest, or if the Planning Commission failed to allow an interested party an opportunity for public comment. For purposes of the Public Commission policy, new information shall pertain only to germane information which did not exist at the time of the public hearing or which was unknown or could not have been discovered with reasonable diligence. An example may be a traffic study completed after the Planning Commission recommendation. The Planning Commission recommendation to the County Commissioners will be accompanied by a summary of proceedings before the Planning Commission at its public hearing, along with the report and recommendations of the county planner, letters, informal petitions, and other information which will be included in the record of proceedings provided to the Planning Commission before and during the public hearing. If the Planning Commission makes a recommendation after tonight's public hearing, this case will be presented to the County Commissioners at their next available meeting after the protest period expires. Contact planning staff or visit the website for the County Commissioner agenda items. Any party who wishes to require the County Commissioners decide this case by a supermajority vote may file a protest petition pursuant to KSA 12-757 at the office of the Reno County Clerk, 125 West 1st Avenue, Hutchinson, Kansas, within 14 days following the decision by the Planning Commission. The form is on the Reno County website, Planning Department website. I will now formally open the public hearing regarding case number 2024-03, a request by Unified School District 313, applicant Landmark Architects for a conditional use permit to establish a daycare center on land zone R1, Rural Residential District. The property is located at 509 East 56th Avenue. Have any Planning Commission members had any outside contact regarding this case?
No.
Do any Planning Commission members have a conflict of interest with this case?
No.
Okay. Will the applicant please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record? You have 10 minutes to present your case. Additional time may be allotted to the applicant at the discretion of the chair. Planning Commission members may request clarification at the end of your presentation or may have questions.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Cindy Couchman. I'm the superintendent of Buehler Schools, USD 313. I have with me Sarah Sipe of Landmark Architects, and she's our architect that the school district is using. And so as you can see, we're asking for a conditional use permit We have purchased the school district at the old church there at the 56th and Plum, and we are wanting to use that as a daycare. And we're hoping to call it Crusader Corner Daycare. And it would be part of our grant that we got. We received the Child Care Accelerator Grant. We received about $600,000 for the daycares that we're opening up, just under 60 slots, I think 59 slots at that daycare center. And so it's an old church. We're going to remodel the top floor. We will have a playground to the east of that church, and kind of a drop-off zone for them to pull up, take their child in, pull back out, and keep going. It will be open from 7:30 to 6, Monday through Friday right now. We'll have, if it was fully operational, fully staffed, 12 employees at a time. And like I said, about 59 birth through 3 daycare. So we're hoping to have an infant room, a toddler room, and then what they call a combined room there. The basement, we're just marginally refinishing. The basement is just basically a kitchen downstairs, along with a play area if needed, and then a kind of a lounge for our staff that work there. So I think Sarah brought the kind of the flow through. The playground is to the east. This is the roundabout. I can't get out of the way, can I? This is the roundabout over here to kind of orient yourself. Traffic would come in. The staff could park here. The drop-off would be here. They would park, bring their child in, or we would come out, and then they just keep going through. Anticipating, most people will drop off their students or their children between 7:30 to 8:30 and pick up anywhere from 4:30 to 6, kind of spread out. So that's sort of the overview of it. It was obviously a church. We are going to relocate the septic tank, which is kind of underneath this parking lot now. We're going to move it out to the west of that area into the ground area. And so I think that was stated in there along with our information. So I've never done this before, so I don't know really how much information you need. I could keep going, but I also don't want to bore you to death. So is it okay for you guys to ask me questions if you need some questions answered, or?
I would add just a couple of things.
Okay,
to what
see?
Cindy mentioned.
She's an experienced, I'm not.
I would just add that we do have exterior lighting on the building. At our exterior, we've got some entrances to the building and obviously exits for the kids to get out to the playground. We have exterior lighting on the building just at those doors. So we've got exterior lights here, 2 doors out, actually 4 doors total out of the building here, 2 doors out of the building here, and 1 at the entry here. So just exterior lights at those doors only. So nothing that should encroach too much on anyone around the area. And we do have an existing well system. We're working with KDHE to make sure that's appropriate drinking water for the facility. We've been working with KDHE on that, and we're working with the county on the wastewater. Again, so we did
soil
mention the
samples.
septic, so working with the county on those items.
Have you done any traffic studies with the proximity to the roundabout, the hours?
We have not done a traffic study.
We have not.
A matter of curiosity, the children that would be there and the parents, where are those children being cared for now?
Well, that's a great question. There are, child care study was done in Reno County. There are 3,000 open need for slots right now, which is why there's so many child cares trying to get open. Some of those are in unlicensed daycares. Some of them are staying with people that we aren't really sure. Where there are some that are in daycares, but there are, when they did the survey, which was now 12 months ago, a year ago, there was a need for 3,000 daycare slots. So not really sure where they're at, but I know that there are a lot of daycares suddenly, with the Child Care Accelerator Capacity Grant that we've received. There's a lot of need for daycares. We already had lots of people call and say, how do we get on the list? How do we get on the waiting list? So
This primarily, are you focusing on staff and parents and children within your district?
they would have, our staff and our parents would have a priority. And so if we have an opening, it would prioritize go to our staff because Bueller Schools has had to raise money through our Education Foundation to supplement this grant. And so, but we're serving everybody. We're not going to have, 15 staff members with infants from 0 to 12 months. So they would have priority. Like, I hope not. We don't have that many long-term subs, if you want to know the truth. So, but they would have priority. And so what that means, I've had a lot of questions about that. What does that mean? Well, we would know, you would have to put your name in, and a semester we'd evaluate and say, is there an open slot? You could have it January, and then we'd notify someone at least a semester ahead of time that slot's going to go to one of our staff members as needed.
And definition of staff member means anybody employed
By USD 313 or our affiliate employers, which means we have affiliate employees with the Reno County Educational Co-op, and those are people who provide our special education services. They are not directly our employees, but we co-op with them, and so we call those affiliate employees. And so it would be anyone that's an affiliate employee in our district or someone who receives a paycheck from our district. So it could be, a part-time employee, or it could be a full-time employee, but if you receive a paycheck from USD 313, they still have to pay for the daycare. Let's not get that confused. They still have to pay for the daycare. It is not a free service at all, but the issue right now is they can't find daycare, so just having someplace to put their child is a benefit right now.
Is this a year-round?
Yes, it's year-round. It will operate year-round. It does not operate on the school schedule. So that's a good question, because although it's a school-operated right now, it is year-round. So,
Good. Okay.
yeah, because we want to serve our community. I mean, it's selfishly we're doing it to help retain and attract staff, which we're struggling with teachers and staffing, period, at our school system. So it is selfishly to retain and attract staff, but it's also a service to our community. I think there's really, this is unrelated, but there's really two issues that I see in our district that's needed in our community. One of them is affordable housing. We have an issue right now with affordable housing and daycare. And those are the two questions when I'm trying to hire staff, they ask. Is there housing for me to buy? And how much would that cost? And can I get into your district? The second one is I have 2 children under the age of 3. Where do I put them for daycare? So,
I guess I would be correct in interpreting after you've satisfied the need of the staff, then the second priority would be people or families that live in the district.
we are actually going to open it up to our community. If you want to know the truth, we are, Hutchinson proper, we are not going to just say, this is going to be a Bueller, you have to be a Bueller district person, but our staff would have priority. Right now, the way our policy was written, now we could modify that at any time, depends on how much the need is, but right now it's written as our staff have priority. It doesn't say anything about from there where we go. It's probably just who gets on the list first at that point.
In the material we got, it looked like the minimum number of parking spaces based on square feet is 17, but the site plan only showed 15. Is there some extenuating circumstances why you arrived at 15?
15 was just based on knowing the number of staff and the thought that as parents come in, loop around, and are able to stack pretty well along here to park and bring their child in or be met by staff to get the child. The need for really any additional parking beyond those 12 staff members, allowing 3 additional spaces for any parents who need to park for a longer term to come in and either establish service at the daycare or make a payment or something like that. 3 spaces seemed like an adequate amount. There obviously is space available, but knowing we have to move the septic and trying to figure out some of those things was the reason.
I know Sarah and I were talking about like where it says the overflow parking, it's shown right here, we can put in, more parking on this side of it. I don't know if you guys they probably don't have this picture today, but they do, okay. We could add, very easily 8 parking spots over there, just not established there. I guess is that it?
Understanding the need and hearing the capacity of 60, chances are that of that being under 60 is going to be pretty slim.
It will be probably, yeah.
So my concern with that tight drop-off window, 7:30 to 8:30, there's going to be a potential of 60 cars that come in. It's been a while. My youngest is 19, so I don't remember exactly how long it took me to get kids out of car seats. But that's going to take more than just a 5-minute drop and run type of situation. Do you have enough room in this circle that you indicated in the packet that we have to accommodate that 60 cars?
I don't know that we will have 60 necessarily all at that 7:30 time, but we certainly can accommodate a good number. I don't think it'll be 60. And if we need to, we can create a double loop system. I think that's something we can certainly.
I know that, a couple of our schools would do a
lot of
double loop
space.
here
Yep.
that we could do. It's right now, I know that I say 7:30, 8:30, that obviously is a guess, an estimate, just because some people go to work at 8, some people go to work at 9. That's my guess. I mean, I think it's a logical guess.
Do you have, let's just say, just for dirty numbers here, it takes 5 to 7 minutes to take the student out of the car, hand off, that type of thing. So with 60 cars, okay, you do the math, that's 60 times 7 minutes. Okay, in that hour, you're gonna have a backup of vehicles. Where are you gonna be able to handle that backup? My concern is it's gonna end up on 56th Street or bending around that roundabout, which that's not gonna be safe for anybody. So that's my concern there.
Yeah.
And I think that's where our benefit of this property to the west is where we're.
Another question.
Yeah, we could definitely look at adding the parking stalls out there. Right now, it's just rock, and we'd extend that rock that to the west as needed. Or south, we can, it's actually, if you've been there, there's a kind of a drive underneath here too. So we could come this direction with parking if we needed it. It's actually kind of rocked right here. As there's I don't know if you've been there, there's a drive underneath here. I think it was probably used for funeral drop-off maybe, or, I don't know what it was used for. Not sure.
Just mainly concerned that you're looking at traffic flow. There's some bottlenecks at some of the other Bueller facilities when there's pickup.
As any school does, yeah.
There's any school, but we just want to make sure that there's some awareness that backing up along 56th Street is not going to be acceptable and won't be allowed.
Another question on that. In looking at your rendering here, I haven't been out by that roundabout in a number of years. I just don't go that way any longer. But it looks like heading north
Heading west maybe?
on 56 there, is that a barrier between the two lanes, or is that you can drive over?
You drive over.
So there would be people turning left into the parking lot to cross that.
Right. We did talk to, I think you talked to somebody at the county about the white lines there, whether or not we're able to turn left over them. We assume they could because they have been for the church. And they said yes, that they're just to guide the traffic, that you can turn left over those. It's just white lines painted. It's not raised at all.
That's around the dock.
Yeah. These are great questions.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. If not, we'll now hear from the staff. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys, I appreciate your time. Thanks. Yeah,
Will there be a charge?
Yeah, I know.
Will there be a charge for the daycare?
Yes, yeah, oh yeah.
I just,
That would be a nice service and all, but.
well, yeah, I agree, since I'm USD 313.
Mark Monash and County Planner, so you heard a really excellent presentation of the overview of what's proposed on this property here. I probably don't have too much more to add. I can tell you that on their site plan, they will identify that playground area, and that playground area is proposed to be fenced. It's going to be on the east side of the existing building, and this is an existing building that's out there. Probably want to touch on one thing right now, we've had some comments, you got some late comments in your packet and at your desk here regarding the current construction going on, and what you have to understand is there's land use and then there's additions to the building and modifications to the building. What they're doing right now with the building does not require a zoning permit for it because it's interior remodeling of a building. We do not get into interior remodeling of buildings. I did issue a zoning permit for the ramps that they are currently constructing, but that's something related to the building. It doesn't have anything to do with the actual land use that is proposed on the property. What we're here today is to discuss the actual land use of converting this former church use property to now a daycare property. So what they're doing with the building is perfectly legal under the zoning regulations, with the understanding that if something would happen and it would be denied, then they're out that time and effort and money for converting that building to a daycare if that land use is ultimately denied by the commissioner. But I just want to make it clear that, yes, there's construction going on right now, and I'm aware of that, but it's all been, vetted through me and permitted by me that they're allowed to continue that with that understanding, so, okay. The other thing we want to talk about really is a little bit, because it does come into play a little bit with the parking lot and stuff, is the septic system. They have been in contact with Darcy, with our department here, and they are working with her on installation of a new septic system. The site plan does show where the existing tank is, and they are proposing to relocate that on the other side of the gravel area. It's my understanding in talking to Darcy, that they want to go fairly close to that gravel area, but obviously not have anything within the driving lanes of where cars are going to be driving, because that's one thing obviously you don't want to do is drive over your septic system. And also talking to her, depending on what is decided, maybe with the parking or additional driving lanes. She said they haven't decided yet, is it going to be a long skinny type of system or a short compressed type of system right now. But the bottom line I think that you need to understand is the fact that they do have room to move it further to the west if you want to have additional parking or additional driving lanes. There's still room to go to the west and install that septic system. You could also extend the parking area, as it was kind of mentioned here, further to the south if you wanted to. Southeast part of the property is really off limits, but for the fact that that's where the well is. You obviously don't want to have your septic system really near your well, and so that area would be off limits to move the system down in that area. So really the best option right now, with her being out there in discussions with staff on their end, is to have that septic system out to the west of that parking lot. But just keep in mind that it probably could go further west if you want to add additional parking to the west there. Next part of my report, dealt with the related requirements associated with a daycare center. I'm not going to really go over all of them. I think, the bulk of my report dealt with my concerns with the parking in. A daycare center does not have defined parking requirements in our regulations. So I base the parking requirements off of the square footage of the building. But again, this board needs to understand that, with any type of land use and conditional use permit, you can review the parking and determine, is it too much parking that the regulations are requiring, or is it not enough? The regulations say that based on the square footage that you have to have 17. The applicant is proposing the 15 parking spaces, and if this is fully operational with the 12 employees and 59 children, you're left with essentially 3 parking spaces for the public to be able to park in. I did not believe that was adequate. I felt like there needed to be more parking to accommodate parents with, say, young babies or 1-year-olds, and so I felt like more parking needed to be acquired. I came up with potentially 25 parking spaces that should be required, as you see in my staff report. No rhyme or reason for that number. I would tell you, other than the fact that I think that there needs to be more adequate parking for the people that want to park and walk their child up to the drop-off area. I understand that, the majority of people will probably just pull up, the driving lane and drop their children off, but I felt like 15 wasn't enough. 17 would meet the regulations that are required, and we could go with that if you want, or if you feel like there needs to be adequate parking in addition to that 17, then you can set your own number. Mr. Sherman?
Okay, so we're talking about parking spaces, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but assuming that we're okay with the gravel, continuing on with the gravel lot like it is, I mean, gravel lots that I'm familiar with don't really have lines, parking, so it's a little bit, maybe parking blocks or something
Yeah.
to define spaces, but it seems like there's plenty of space. It's just a matter of organization.
Right. So, yeah, you're right. It's gravel, and assume this board would grant that type of waiver here, and we can get into that a little bit more. Yeah, we're not going to require the applicant, obviously, to spray paint gravel, out there. That's not going to work here. What we're looking at is a 9x19 parking stall, and if that number that we would set on, you would multiply and figure out what the total square footage of the parking would be out there. We have the benefit of having professional drawings, and so you can see on the drawing where 15 parking spaces would look like on there. And so we would expect the same thing, that their architect would go back and figure in where the 25 would go. But yeah, when you drive out there, you're not going to have, spray painted lines out there on this saying this is a parking spot. But what we want to do is have enough square footage to accommodate at least the 25 type of vehicles that could be expected to be, out there. Okay, does that help you with that?
Well, if I have a concern, it is about the parking and the traffic flow and little kids running around and, on gravel without the ability to give some direction and traffic flow. If it's at rush hour times, you've got moving cars and little kids, and that can get a little frightening.
Yes. So the applicant, in their write-up for this application, has requested a waiver from the 17 parking stalls out there. And so this board has the option to grant that waiver, or you can deny that waiver and set a different number of parking stalls. In reviewing that, I recommend to the board that they deny that waiver. The other waiver in play, as you had mentioned to Mr. Strand, was the requirement of paving and stuff out there. Existing building out there, it's been a gravel park area since that area has been a church since 1970. Paving obviously would cost a lot of money there. It would probably also, given the amount of parking that is out there right now in the gravel area, would probably want to have a drainage plan put in place to make sure that that water doesn't go onto the road, or more importantly, onto the property. And so, very expensive, especially when you're dealing with grant money. A lot of that money would have to be, spent on something like that. And so I recommended that you approve the waiver. And a little history with that, we've never made anybody actually pave their parking lot off of a blacktop road either. So that would be something else to kind of keep in mind. If you do require something different other than what is shown and submitted to you for the application, then another recommendation I have, that a new site plan be submitted with your recommendations, whether it's a different traffic flow or if it's additional parking out there. Some of the other requirements, signs. Again, the county does not have any sign code requirement, so we don't really care what type of sign, is out there. If it's going to be electronic, then what we say is it needs to be submitted to us, because we do have a little bit of regulation on electronic signs. But if it's going to be located near the intersection, anything that's permanent needs to be submitted to us for review to make sure it's out of any kind of site triangle concerns that we would have with that. The county does not have any kind of landscaping requirements here, but you can certainly implement that with the conditional use permit review. You've heard discussion on lighting. Fencing, there is going to be fencing around the playground area, as you saw, and there's also fencing around a lot of the outside HVAC area as well. Next part of my report really discusses the factors that you need to review and consider when making a recommendation on a conditional use permit. I don't believe I need to go over all of them. anything, but I would certainly be able to answer questions on either in my write-up if you have anything for that end. I think it was pretty straightforward on that end. One thing I would mention, though, this area is within the city of Hutchinson's area of influence, a little bit different than what we call an extraterritorial zoning. It's an area of notification, or commonly referred to as an area of influence. I did send this application to the city of Hutchinson for review and comment. Didn't make it into your packet, but I believe I forwarded it to you through email, and the city of Hutchinson has no comment on the case, so they don't have any objection to this land use being out there and within their area of influence. So I just wanted to put that, on record to the board. So with that, staff is going to recommend approval of this request based off of the 9 factors that you see listed in my staff report, and I did attach 9 conditions of approval with that. And so if this board wants to recommend approval, you have the option of removing those conditions of approval, or you have an option of modifying any of my conditions, of approval if you like. So with that, I would stand for any questions.
There's a structure to the east, which when I went out to look at this, I assume that goes with the church property. It looks like kind of a patio type covered area.
Yeah.
Does that go with this property, or is that the neighbor's property?
Are you talking this building, or?
Yeah.
No, that's the neighbor's property.
That's actually the church,
Is that-
or our property.
Is that your property line?
Yeah. The property line is kind of, see that, I think it's on there, isn't it? That red line maybe over to the side? Yep.
Is this the red line here?
Yes.
By the driveway? So is that another building of yours then?
Just that out building
Just
right.
this outbuilding?
Yes.
I just want to make sure we didn't have any setback issues.
Yeah, it's an existing property, so there's no setback issues. I do have pictures of the area if you'd like to see them. So this is obviously the roundabout and Plum Street, and then 56th Avenue is going to the east-west there. Yeah, you're right, that is your, yeah, I apologize for that.
Mark,
A little bit close-up view of the church, yes?
did I understand the present septic system is under the gravel parking area?
Yes, it is. Well, it's right on the edge. It's approximately right here if you look on your site plan. So it's right, it's probably going to be right near the tank is.
Is that the existing septic,
Yes,
you mean?
yeah.
But they're moving it.
Yeah, they've decided to move it. The age of it's really unknown. I don't believe the health department has any records on it from when I talked to Darcy. So it's unsure right now of the condition of it. Can it handle the amount of children potentially present in that building? Nobody knows the condition of it, but yeah, I think, in talking to Darcy, has decided that the applicant wants to move it and do a brand-new system out there. And so,
The second question would be, where is the private well relative to the existing septic system? And where is it going to be, is that the source of water there? The
right
private
here's the
well?
existing well, right there, southeast corner of the building. So that would be the source of water, and they could probably explain what they're going to do. And there was concerns about becoming what they call a public water supply system, which takes an operator and stuff. And so if you want, during the rebuttal phase, they could come back and discuss what they're doing with that. But just be assured that, that everything is going to be in compliance with the sanitation code requirements. So, yeah. So there's, again, close up of the church. This is the actual picture, just taken off of Google Earth, so it's a couple years ago, so you can see the existing entryway and then the church building. Looking to the south, so we're off of 56th. And then,
And the size of the new septic system will be per design by qualified people.
Yes, yes, it will. Yep.
And you
We'll-
keep talking
we'll size
about
it to fit their
could go
need.
further west if necessary.
If necessary, yep, if necessary, they can go, and this is the area, so here in this top corner is the edge of the parking area, or let's see, that's the
That would
center,
fill
the
into-
parking goes up that way. That's like a center stop, I believe, and so the septic will be out in this area, and yes, you can go further to the west toward Plum if possible, if needed.
That would pertain to item 4 of your condition.
Yes.
That is, applicant
If-
shall submit a revised site plan showing 25 parking stalls over, but it was also a site plan showing the new septic system and the size of the septic system.
Not necessarily need to show the new system, that's probably still under design and under consideration right now. But I think mainly we need to set where the parking is going to be on the property, so then staff here will know that we need to stay out of that area and everything. And so I don't think the final location is determined. They want to go in that area, but like I say, the actual size of the system has not been determined, so they don't know how much of this land out here right now they're going to need to be able to take up. That's still under consideration right now.
So that would be a lateral system probably.
I believe so, that's what they're looking at. My report did say that nobody had submitted any written comments regarding this proposal. However, in your, on your desk, excuse me, you'll see that somebody did submit a late comment this morning to me. I actually visited with that gentleman in person this morning, and I believe I answered his questions, so.
Does the board have any more questions for staff?
I guess I'd like to see that not only item number 4, not just addresses the revised site plan for 25 parking stalls, but a revised site plan showing the septic system relative to the site also.
If that's a requirement, I think they could, on that site plan, they could show the general location of where that is going to go, on there. But the actual length, width of that is probably still under review and consideration right now. But it could be moved, because right now it says the existing system up here, that could easily be moved over here, and they could just do a general area as to where they're looking at with the septic system.
I assume they have that existing system, that the rest of the ground should be usable if they do a perk test for it and whatnot. There shouldn't be any problems with it.
With the existing one?
Well, with the new one.
The new one, yeah, Darcy's already been out there on site, and they've done some initial testing on it and everything. Yep, so, yeah, she's on top of that, and they're working, on that.
Any other questions for staff? Good. Thank you, Mark.
Good, thank you.
If there's anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this case, you may have 5 minutes to comment. Please come forward to the podium one at a time and state your name and address for the record before commenting. Audience members are only permitted to address the Planning Commission from the podium. Audience members are permitted only one time at the podium. In the interest of time, if you agree with the comments previously made by audience members, please don't repeat the comments. Simply state that you agree with previous comments and present new information to the Planning Commission. Statements and questions should only be directed to the Planning Commission, not the applicant or staff. The Planning Commission may choose not to answer questions or engage with the public. Questions regarding the application can be asked to the Planning Commission and answered by the applicant during the rebuttal phase of this public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to comment? State your name and address, please.
My name is Ryan Ramsey. My address is 5705 Highland Drive. I'm on the roundabout, the road that goes off from this area right here. So I got this information. I'm at the corner number 9. I got the information. My biggest concern, and I think you guys touched on this a little bit, so I won't belabor the point, but the traffic is a main concern for mine. Both Plum and 56 are both 55 miles an hour. The roundabout's there to keep traffic going in a pretty good clip and keep people safe from having to worry about stop signs, especially during high times of traffic, during when the time that people will be dropping off kids especially. So my concern is that we're having a potential 59 children being dropped off. Means I've got a lot of parents and stuff trying to go into the parking lot at one specific time, causing backups on traffic on both directions in an already area that during this time is already high traffic to begin with. So as soon as that roundabout starts getting clogged up during this time, it does slow down traffic as is, and this will just add to that. There's also a concern with noise. So this is a very quiet neighborhood, and that's pretty much why most of us moved out here. So adding a year-round daycare with traffic, children that will be there all day long is going to make a huge difference and impact to the entire environment of this neighborhood. And so that affects resale value, that affects how we entertain or exist outside of our homes and properties. And so I think that should definitely be taken into consideration when you look at this whole thing. As well as adding, thirdly, I think the biggest thing will be when it comes to both either septic or well system, you're adding 70 people into a single area. They'll be taking out from the ground and putting into the ground both in a septic or well situation, which is greatly more than any other property in this area has. And so I think that will affect it negatively as well. So I don't really want this in my area as far as a daycare. I think an office building would be great here, put 12 or 17 people in here to do paperwork and stuff like that, great idea, but daycare, I don't like it.
My name is Theron Salyer. My wife Karen and I moved there to the north end of Highland Drive in May of 1972. We have put two additions on our house, one a double-car garage and a rec room in the back. We've seen this area. We feel like we know the area. There's only one family currently living there that was there when we moved there. The concern we have primarily is traffic. I mean, that's one of them. And I visited with Mark a little bit today about that, but it sounds like you kind of got that covered, maybe. It seems like we ought to have an entrance and an exit like school buses do, at Prairie Hills Middle School, those where they go in and out. So exit, enter one way and exit another. There's sure a way to do that. Secondly, probably more concerned, it sounds like you got maybe the sewer covered, but years ago when our children were in school, Prosperity School, they had to pump that septic tank a couple of times a week to keep it, keep it like it should be. When we have high water, and we've had that high water, we built a storm cellar several years ago. We had to put a sump pump in that, no deeper than it was, to get the water because the underflow was so high. We haven't had that problem lately, and I hope we have it again, but we haven't. Secondly, Prosperity School, they finally hooked onto the city sewer. They ran a sewer line. I can see this happening at the school at 56 Plum or the daycare there. One of these days they'll say, we've got to have help from the city. Secondly, water. We have two wells. We quit watering our yard last year because the water table went down so much. When they start pumping water, when Stroberg starts pumping water to the west out of the irrigation wells, our wells go down. And it's a real concern. Last year we quit because we would rather take showers and flush our stools than than have green grass. So consequently, I think there's a concern that they haven't studied that. There was a well drilled, Ez Miller, who drills wells, a number of wells, many of you know him, in the area. Within the last 2 months, he drilled a well along about midway between our house, which is at the north end of Highland Drive, and 56th Street, and he said there's not much water there. I mean, because the water table is down, because of this drought, it's down, it's considerable. I can see the school petitioning to the city, let's run a water line up there so we've got enough water. Because I think kids are going to flush the schools quite a bit. They're going to use more water than the average household. And there was a well drilled, this has been several years ago, the house right next door to the school to the east. They drilled a well, Ez drilled it, he said there's not much water there. He had to go clear to the back of the lot to get adequate water. And that's been a few years ago, not as dry as it is now. I don't know what their situation is at this point in time. So between water conservation and, availability and the sewer, sounds like we had to put in a new septic tank. You can't run laterals anymore. You got to have a mound system, which is rather expensive, and I'm sure they're anticipating that. But I can see a lot of cost. The church didn't use much water. Another thing, when the water table was high, and the school may not even know this, there is a sump pump in that basement that runs out to the street or to the ditch on Plum Street. When they put in that roundabout, they hit that line. It's just a line that's used when the water table's high, and it was pumped and they broke it, so they had to repair it. So that line is still there at this point in time, as far as I know. It probably isn't in use because it's been dry. So, there's just some concerns. I feel badly that they've been over there spending money, to remodel and do what they've done. Mark says they can do it without a permit, what they've done so far. But they've spent money, and it may be, I don't think they're done finished spending money to get what they want at this point. Thank you, unless you have any questions.
Are there any other comments? Yep.
I don't want to take what my husband said. We each know how we do. We have a little bit different viewpoint.
You might state your name and address.
I am Karen Salyer, 5710 Highland Drive, 67502.
Thank you.
And live just up as you make the curve on Highland Drive. A concern that I have is traffic. As we mentioned, when it backs up on 56th, where is it going to go? Well, can we go around Highland Drive? That's a dirt residential street, and it's not a through street. So if you're headed north or south, please don't, because right now, years ago, like Theron said, my husband is 72, we moved out there. Our children were 5 and 7. They're now in their own careers. We can imagine, I think, Mark, you might have been in the class of my son, Rod. I think he mentioned one time, I think there was a Mark Vanachin.
Oh, yeah.
So that's been a few years. Anyway, it's been a wonderful place for us to live, to rear a family, to really enjoy. And we don't want to see it turned into a semi-commercial situation. We live there because we love it. We could have moved, but we don't want to have to. But water is a big issue, a huge issue. The place that my husband was talking about, when Ez got through drilling the well, he told Jeannie Stang, which Stang Plumbing, she lives down just south, just before you get to Highland Drive. He says, Jeannie, you may have enough water to take a good shower, but don't try and water your lawn. It's not going to work. And that was just within a few feet of the existing well. He says, it's not there. We don't have that water anymore. So consider that seriously. But that and the traffic flow. The traffic, as Ryan said, he and Jessica live across from us. And it was at one time just a good old sandy road. and then they did some rework on it in its township, but they put clay balls all over it. There, see, we know what happens when clay balls gets dry. It's like face powder, and it just sifts everywhere. So a little bit of extra traffic. There's times that the folks that live where Ryan and Jessica live, we put sprinklers out. So we kind of calmed some of that while they were building the roundabout, because it stirred up so much of that soft clay dirt. So please consider our environment when we decide what to do. Pastor Lawler built that church about 6 years before we moved there in '72. And he was quite an interesting neighbor. He did a wonderful job. He came from Missouri, and he knew how to handle extra water. But I don't know that he knew real well how to handle the drought. But anyway, he's gone now. But it's been a great place, and we really appreciated it. So we'd like to see it possibly reconsidered, another configuration, I don't know, but please consider those factors. I can see Highland Drive becoming an access road if we don't watch it. But some way or other, we need to try and at least stop that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I would add, I have had 9 years with Child Care Links dealing with food programs and child care centers and homes. So a little bit of knowledge for that background.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, does the applicant wish to rebut any of the statements? Give it to Councilor.
You know, I don't know if I have any rebuttal or anything. I would say that as a school system, we are going to be good stewards of the land. We're going to take good care of the facility and not let it sit empty and deteriorate. I would also say that, you know, as with anybody, we are also living in the areas and don't want traffic to be backed up or something that we troubleshoot. I think that was brought up. The well, you know, and I know that there will be, you gotta remember these are infants, like 15 of them are infants. So as far as being loud and noisy, I'm not sure how much infants use the toilet system or the toddlers would. We are replacing the septic system. We didn't have to. It was actually said that we could leave it and just use it until it failed. I believe it's been pumped one time since 1970, from what it said right now, so it is usable. We had it tested, we looked at, we dug out and looked at it. But we have chosen to invest and move the septic system out, away from it and clear the parking lot. And the well, you know, we are using turf and not grass in our playgrounds. So we are going to use turf, so we're not going to be watering that grass area in that. We are going to use turf for underneath our playgrounds in that area for lots of reasons. One is to maintain, we don't want to have to maintain that grass area. We also, you know, it's a little bit lower cost for well water or lower cost to you know, mow it and water it and everything else. And so we are choosing to do turf in that area. We have 2 separate playgrounds. By law, the infants have to have a playground, and it's basically just to take an infant out and get fresh air, so they're not really outside playing. As far as noise, there's a lot of ground out there and a lot of space. At the most, I think in one room is 15 in one room. So the most kids that can be out at one time is 15. So it's not like 60 kids will be outside creating noise. I would say because we're going to have one group, you know, you rotate who goes out at what time. And so in the one playground would be 15, and that would be just 2-year-old, 1 to 3-year-olds. So at 15 at a time. And so I don't know if the noise as far as children playing would be that noisy. Cars would create some noise, so we recognize that. Trying to think of what else was brought up. But you know, we want to be good stewards financially. We want to serve the community. And that is really our mission. And, you know, for every dollar invested in daycare is a $16 return in your community. And there's a lot of research on that and a lot of need. And so, you know, that's what we want to do. We want to be good stewards. We want to be good neighbors. We want to be good neighbors to the people who live in the Highlands area and that drive. We want to be good stewards of our community. And that's both fiscally responsible and everything else. That's our mission.
Planning Commission have any additional questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do, just a minute, I just forgot what I was.
No, sorry, I interrupted you.
There, thinking about it. What was I thinking?
Maybe noise, maybe the cars,
Yeah.
maybe. What did I say that maybe needed something?
It's something that's been percolating for
Yeah.
a while, and then it just
Okay.
percolated apparently.
Percolated, percolated right out.
Yeah.
It sucks getting old.
Yeah, it does, believe me.
It does, I know, I'm there.
I have a question for somebody out there, but there's obviously concern about the septic system and the water supply. And I think I heard somebody say Prosperity School had a line, ran that far, which is it's within a mile, I think, of this facility. Does anybody know how far the city service goes out down Plum, north?
I did not. I didn't anticipate that question, so I didn't look it up. I can tell you over at Prosperity School, the city limits is much closer, so if they did connect to city water with that, you know, it wouldn't be as, you know, big of a project as something like this would. The city limits, as you can see like on the map, there's no city limits anywhere in that picture, so it's further to the south, so it'd be quite an extension and quite a project for somebody to run a water line all the way up to that area. We would hope that the city would continue and grow to the north, and then as they do grow, then those sewer and water lines would become available. But, you know, for the near future, yeah, it's not a feasible project right now for just this land use.
Finally had the light come back on. Yeah. What's your time frame for getting this up and running?
Well, I don't know how much you know about getting daycares licensed, but it's kind of a process. Fire marshals, KDHE, there's a lot of people that have their hands in it as far as county, city, everybody. The goal would be September, the goal. That's the goal. That's fire marshals getting on in when they need to and getting approval from a lot of different entities, including the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. So, but the goal is September.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Does the board have any other further questions for the applicant? Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Staff, do you wish to rebut any statements made?
I just have one quick comment, and Ms. Couch mentioned it here just briefly right at the end, is that you got to know that even though you didn't have any public comments from the health department and/or KDG, you know, you have to realize that this daycare will be in compliance with those daycare regulations, okay? You know, notice of this was sent to the health department. I did not receive any written comments back from them, but they're aware of it, and they're working with them along with the fire marshal and any kind of state fire codes that they have to be met. So those three entities are heavily involved in this project, even though you may not have received actually any kind of written comments for your review of that. You did have the one report from the fire marshal's office, you know, for some permitting going on right now. But I just wanted to make that clear that the health department's aware of this, KDH is aware of this, and eventually those permits will get, you know, issued at some point in time.
I heard some concern about having a daycare in the neighborhood, and so kind of turning that question or that thought around, given how that's zoned now, what are some other opportunities that could be using this building?
So as you know, the property is zoned residential, and we are a conditional use permit-based type of zoning. So any potential land use that you can think of could go on that property with an approved conditional use permit. And so I can tell you, when this property was put up for sale and auction, I had a lot of people call me on this property with what I would say a lot worse land use proposals than what this daycare center could be. I'm not gonna name specifics, but to give you some examples, you could run an office building out of it. You could do dog kennel out of that. You could do dog grooming. You could do any type of commercial business out of that property with an approved conditional use permit. Now, that doesn't mean that they would be approved, but that doesn't prevent somebody from actually applying for something like that. Automobile sales, automobile repair. Quick shop, recreational facility where you've got, soccer fields, baseball fields with floodlights on till 10, 11 o'clock at night. I mean, just think of any type of land use potential out there, and you could do that under that zoning because we are conditional use permit based. That's why we're not changing the zoning to a public or a commercial zoning district, because we don't have those. Everything is conditional use, and so that's part of the process where you, as a board, review a proposed land use. Is it fit? Are there conditions that we could place on that property that would make this more compatible with the neighborhood? That's the process that we're going through right now.
Any other questions for staff?
Mark, if there was to be a traffic study done, who would do that?
The county could do that, similar to what we did with the coffee shop proposal down in Yoder a couple of years ago. We could do a traffic study on that. I think with that, from our perspective and public works, we're concerned about the potential of cars parking or stopping on 56th Avenue. You're talking about two major blacktop roads that carry a lot of traffic anyway, and so the addition of this is not going to be that severe. What we're concerned about is, if there is a situation where it's backed up, that people start parking on the right of way or stopping on Plum, something like that. That's what we're concerned about. And I believe with the amount of land that they have, that situation is probably not going to happen because of the land. People are going to be pulling in, following their traffic flow pattern, and so it'd have to be a lot of cars in there to start, I think, backing up onto 56th Avenue. You could have situations, people coming from the east and wanting to turn left, and then, you're going to have a situation there if it's busy in the morning and you got traffic going the other way and they can't cross traffic to turn, but you have that at any situation right now. But that's something we could do, but I don't know, doing something like that, what that's going to tell this board, really.
You don't think a traffic study like that, if you were to do it between, their hours of 7:30 in the morning to 8 o'clock or 8:30 in that 1 hour range from both directions, you don't think that would give you some pertinent information as far as the amount of traffic that's flowing through and then throwing in the additional traffic that would be, generated by the daycare center?
Yeah, it would give you information, but then are you looking at construction of a turning lane? Then you got to start talking about, who's going to pay for that type of stuff. And so, and is it really warranted at that point in time? Now, something to that effect, if this is successful and if they want to grow beyond the 59 kids and they want to do, 100, maybe something like that is warranted, and then we need to come back and look at, a turning lane type situation. Or is 100 kids even doable in that property? I mean, that's an extreme example, but, that's what you'd be looking at with a traffic study.
Unless they could move the drive entrance further. I was just a little concerned at the proximity of the driveway to where people are coming out of that roundabout. It's fairly close to it. If you move it down, to the whatever direction that is, east or whatever, south.
The east.
East, yeah, moving it down east more, then you're gonna get it back, take out some of these trees and stuff to come back around. That would do two things, I think. One, it'd get away from the proximity of the roundabout being that close, but also give you a longer drive to accommodate the cars and prevent that backing up.
I don't see that being a problem backing up towards the roundabout on 56. There's plenty of stack space in the parking area. If it's going to back up, it's probably people turning left, wanting to turn left into the
That's gonna be the worst one.
church parking lot, waiting on traffic coming the other way.
Yeah, you would have that at any situation potentially, with that. It's an existing drive, this isn't a proposed driveway, obviously, that they're looking at. It's an existing drive, and then that roundabout isn't in the center of the screen that you're seeing there. The roundabout is offset, the roundabout's over here. We moved it off the section line.
That driveway is wide enough to accommodate two-way traffic.
Yes. Yeah. If it needs to be, if they believe it needs to be extended, then that'd be something the Public Works would look at for an extension.
Any further questions? Jack, you good?
Yeah.
Steve? Okay, seeing there are no further questions for applicant or staff, the public hearing is now closed. Acceptance or denial of a rezone or conditional use permit must be based on the factors that are listed in the staff report and found within the chairs in the audience. But this is the time the planning commission will discuss the case and ask procedural questions. And we will only be allowed to ask procedure questions of staff only.
I'd like to start out the discussion amongst this group if you look at any study that attempts to value a community to attract new businesses, new residents, and things of that sort, the availability of child care is always at the top of the list. And therefore, I commend the school district for coming up with a plan to tackle that problem. Because we want quality school teachers coming into our community and other family too. So I commend the fact that they've come up with a plan. It seems to me like there might be a couple of weak links in there that maybe haven't been properly addressed yet and should be addressed. This is my comment.
Start on your end, Garth. Got any comments?
I have no more comments or questions.
Okay.
I don't, looks like a workable solution to me.
As I reviewed this, you can tell by my questions that the parking and the traffic flow are probably high on my list. I think one of the conditions about the revised site plan showing the additional parking stalls, I see no need to wait for the waiver that's been requested. Likewise, the surface, I think the waiver looks pretty good to me. I mean, I just see no reason to pave that. That's my stance on it, so I guess I haven't had a lot of comment between six of us.
Like I've expressed, I have concerns on traffic and traffic flow into the thing. I agree with you on the parking. I think having just 3 extra parking spaces is too little. There are going to be instances where parents come in the middle of the day or something and whatever, they're visitors, state inspectors, or whoever else shows up, they're going to use up some of those limited parking spaces. So I do agree with Mark's position that there should be, I like the 25 number that gives you 8 additional or 10 additional parking spaces actually, or what they proposed. And I think that would also help alleviate some of the traffic if parents needed to park somewhere to drop the kids off and bring them in or whatever. They had something, special instructions for the staff, things like that. So I definitely feel that would be a benefit.
It's that easy. Yeah.
Any other comments? No. Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I will move that case number 2024-03, the request by Unified School District 313, requesting a conditional use permit from the Reno County zoning regulations to establish a daycare center on a parcel of land zoned R1 Rural Residential District be approved based on the 9 factors and 9 conditions of approval listed in the staff report and as heard at this public hearing. And I would further move to deny the waiver to request to provide only 15 parking stalls and instead require a minimum of 25 parking stalls, and grant the waiver request to not require the parking lot and driveway be paved based on the reasons listed in the staff report and heard at this public hearing.
I second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, staff, please call the roll.
Strand,
Yes.
Seltzer,
Yes.
Macklin,
Yes.
Martin. Yes. Gertson.
Yes. Motion carries.
So just for clarification, thank you, guys. What, the new proposed parking slot, when does that need to be submitted and to who and
Submit to me?
submit to you?
Submit to me, yes, and if you could do it next
Soon?
couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, then I can
Okay.
get it on the county commissioner's agenda for final consideration. There is a 14-day protest period, as you heard, so we have to wait at least that. So we're probably actually talking about like another month before this can technically, because the county commissioners only meeting twice a month, but I'll get it on as soon as we can with that. And then, yeah, if you can get that to me, that'd be great. Certainly call if you have questions.
Well, thank you. This has been a learning experience. Appreciate it. Always learning.
Okay, we'll move on to item B on our agenda. I'll remind those interested in case 2024-04 that the statements made prior to the previous case still stand. Do any of the planning, I'll now formally open the public hearing regarding case number 2024-04, a request by Central Kansas Gun Club of Reno County Incorporated, applicant Next Tech Wireless for a conditional use permit to temporarily place a 150-foot tall cell on wheels and then construct a permanent 220-foot tall telecommunications tower on land zone agricultural district. The property is located at 7908 North Lorraine Street. Have any of the planning commission members had any outside contacts regarding this case?
No.
No.
Do any of the planning commission members have a conflict of interest with this case?
No.
Okay, will the applicant please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 10 minutes to present your case.
Okay.
Additional time may be allotted if we need to.
Sure.
We may have questions at the end.
That's exactly, yep, I was prepared. My name's Creighton Remus, Next Tech Wireless. We're based out of Hays, Kansas, 3001 New Way. We're a small telecommunications company, and we're looking at building this, like you said, a 220-foot permanent structure on the gun club, right there at their property. We're looking for a conditional use permit. Right now, we've submitted FAA to that, and it actually did come back here this week. So I did bring a copy of the approved FAA documentation showing that there's no hazard in the area for anything on the FAA. I'll give you a copy. I can email that a copy too.
Okay.
It just came in, stuff like that. So on the property right here, I'm working with the gun club. We did look to go in the back at first. Where they shoot all this way and all this way. So to get a tower in the back, we'd be right in the guns and electronics and computers and stuff do not like bullets. So the best case scenario we were right here. We put it as far back as we can and to meet all the zoning requirements. We have a survey that shows the fall zone of the tower, the height of the tower, but we also did work with Sabre Towers, is a tower company that we will be going through for this structure. And they did send us a certified engineered document that shows these towers, it's a self-support tower, which it's just the 4 legs that go up. It doesn't have any guide wires that go out to take up all that extra room. And these towers are designed, this one is designed to fall within 110 feet. So it falls within half of the height of the tower. So I know a lot of times it's still within its setback with our Murstone surveying out of Wichita, but it does fall within its allotted area, and I did send that to Mark. Nextech Wireless follows all FAA, FCC guidelines. It's mandated. I mean, there's no getting around anything as far as power exposures, RF exposure, anything like that. It's heavily mandated by the FCC and then the FAA as far as flight plans and everything like that. So we do have that temporary permit for that 150-foot cow. What that is, it's a cell on wheels. Nextech's wanting to put this tower in to improve capacity, data usage, as well as coverage in this area. So that's why this area was picked. I mean, our RF engineer will go and put a design together to find the area that needs to have the tower. And that's my job, is to go out and find land in this area that we could put the tower on. And I worked with the gun club, and they were interested in this, to put this tower on their ground. One thing we did get, Mark sent me, there was questions about RF exposure, power exposure, and I did, our RF engineer got a certified study done, and its Nextech Wireless proposed installation will not exceed 0.92% of 19 megahertz. That's one of our bands that we're in. And then 1.35% of the 600 megahertz for the FCC standard of uncontrolled general public maximum permissible exposure, which is called MPE. A lot of big words with the FCC and the FAA. It's just saying that we're mandated. We can't put people in risk, with exposure and stuff like that. So this study here, I did bring a copy for everybody to look at, just so you are aware. Yeah. Because that was one of the major questions that was brought up, and it is always brought up. So I'll give you that. If you go through that document, I know a lot of it, you kind of got to dang near be an engineer to understand what it is, but he does break it down and show that, the height of it, what the readings are and everything like that. Page 4, you'll see at the top that KSN TXC 452, that would be the site that we're looking at. And then all these other dots on the map, that you can see how many other towers are currently around the area. Up in this area, not so much, but in Hutch, if there's problems with exposure and stuff, everybody in Hutchinson would be absolutely bombarded. So that is heavily mandated, regulated, and everything like that. Our antenna gains are 19.5 dBi and 17.5 dBi, which is well below the FCC standards. And we will run on page 5 the 600 megahertz and 1900 megahertz, and they'll both have the same power output on that. Let's see. The FCC guidelines on page 6. And tell me if I'm going too fast through this, you'll see the 300 and 500 or 1500 megahertz range. That there shows what power density, that was a question a concerned citizen called in, what the power density is. And it's F divided by 1500, and then in the 1900, it's 1.0. And we are well below that, as he showed in this study. Let's see. And then the general public uncontrolled exposure is 0.43, and he has that on the chart, so we're way below that. So everything, as far as the calculated results, it's on the last page. You can go through that and show what, we have to be and what we're under. So he has a statement of certification at the end. It says that they're contained on the FCC recommended measures, the industry standard assumption and formulas, and complies with FCC mandated maximum permissible RF exposure requirements. He went through and did this study, signed his name, dated it for the document. And then on the last page here, these are the antennas that will be up on the tower. These are 1900, 600 megahertz antennas, and it shows the frequencies, impedance, dBi gain, everything like that. That is on the KMW, they're a KMW antenna. So, and just so you know, we are, I know I'll say it a bunch of times, we're regulated by the FCC and FAA, and there's no getting around putting out more power, to boost the signal or anything like that. It just doesn't happen in this industry. It'll be a Sabre tower, and then I did design or give him the design on that. As far as where the tower's at, we had to come in to do the survey. We have to survey the whole area. We picked an area that had a bunch of trees, so that way we can tuck it in there back, out of the view the best that we can. So it is back in this area. We had a dozer come in and just clean out that area so that we could do the survey, because he couldn't get all his equipment in there, survey the ground and everything like that. So that was done. We did have we have to go, and it's in environmental right now. So we have to go through and make sure there's no Native American burial grounds, no historical data, anything that will upset the ground, that there's something back in the day that was there, burial ground or anything like that. So that's about done. It should be done this week. It's just waiting on a couple of tribes, and the tribes actually weren't in the area. So that should come back cleared. We did do a geo that last week. That's just a soil sample. They come out, drill a hole in the ground, take a soil sample. And then it goes off to the tower designers, and they'll say, we need so many yards of concrete per leg. So each tower is designed actually for the ground that it goes on. So there's a lot that's involved in that. So that geo report, the soil samples are getting done right now. So we should have them within a couple weeks. And then we'll know how to design the tower, how much concrete and stuff like that. One thing we do have in our lease, say technology changes down the road and we go to all satellites, we no longer use this tower. We do have in our lease that we take the tower down, go down below ground line, put everything back to natural. So that is a big thing that I think should be in all tower leases, but a lot of them don't. But we do say if we do abandon the tower, no longer need it, we put it back to the natural environment that it was beforehand. So I don't know if you got any questions for me. I mean, I know there'll be a lot of questions. I mean, it's always brought up as far as, power and coverage and 5G. And the 5G is the same as 1900. We put out the same amount of power as 1900. So, which is the old CDMA as you guys know it, the 5G is the more data usage. So, as far as utilities and power and all that stuff, we haven't done any of that yet. I mean, it's all right there going down the road. So we've got a 15-foot easement, I think it is, that goes in right to the site. So they'll just bury that underground going right to it. So, I don't know if you guys got any questions or anything.
The tower has like a 110-foot fall area.
Yes, yes. So it's,
You've done a perimeter study on that to see
What we
any
do.
structures within that 110?
You're on the ball. Okay, so yes, here's the engineer. This is stamped by Merstone Service, Brian Pelletier out of Wichita. He came out, found all the corner markers. This is the property right to the north of there. And this shows the fall zone, a 220-foot fall zone. So at the tower at its maximum, it's not going to fall on the other property. But we also have Savers engineered drawings that show that that tower will fall half of that. So we're kind of double. I mean, we went with because when we were first wanting to do it, we were thinking 250-foot tower. And then we were like, there's just not enough room out there. So we went with the 220. We could have moved it back a little further, but then it goes into like a marsh area back by the gun club. And it wouldn't have worked. I mean, it was just a slough back there. So we put it back the maximum distance that we could. And the trees that we cleaned out, we just have a path there. So when you see the tower, it's going to be right when you're looking down the line.
The only structure there that I'm aware of, I think have changed over the years, was the clubhouse there.
Yes. Yeah, the clubhouse burnt down
Oh, did it?
a few years ago, I think it was. But they actually rebuilt the clubhouse right here. So, yeah, we are further away from the clubhouse. They have an entrance here and actually one here. And this is where I think they said a lot of the shotgun shooting goes. No, down here's the shotgun. Yeah, that's where the trap club was. And they have some rifle range. So that's why putting a tower back in the back, it wasn't going to work with our, yes.
I think in my reading, I saw that there was a location that was more like 201 feet to the property line. And
Is that when you were using your map?
Yes.
but
Yeah.
then somewhere else it said, well, you could move the tower further to the south. So I'm a little confused about
Yeah,
what
so when I was talking with him, I went back to our survey company, Merstone, and they're like, we're 100%, this is off the lines and the markers and everything like that. So, but when I was talking to him, I think you were going off of Google Earth or something, or a map and kind of measuring it, and he had a discrepancy by like 20, 30 feet.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And that's why we were like, if need be, we could move it over here. We already filed FAA, all that stuff, so we'd have to go and just resubmit it to FAA, which isn't a big deal. But then that's when I reached out to the tower company, and they're like, that fall zone doesn't have to be a 220 because it will guarantee it's going to fall within the 110. So they sent a certified documentation out. But I could, if you need me, have Merstone come out. They stamped it and certified it that it was, but I think his was discrepancy with the survey company. So I can have the survey company come out and just 100%.
Mr. Chair, latitude. So here's what I do when I talk to Mr. Remus about it. I pull the deed to the property to the north. I used their legal description, and their legal description went from the same starting point, the northwest corner of that, and their legal description said you go down 489.25 feet to the point of beginning. Pulling the deed to the other property, same starting point, they have 313.07 feet of frontage along Lorraine. So you subtract those two numbers, and I get 176.18 feet. And then what I did was I added 25 feet for the lease area, because the tower is sitting in the middle of a 50-foot lease area.
So that's where I came up with the 201.18 feet
Yeah.
from the property line. So that was gonna be one of my questions, you know, it says that the 220-foot fall zone radius, but is that the actual distance the tower is from the north property line?
Yeah, and
There might be a difference.
Yeah, and see, and that's when I called the survey company, because that's what, I was like, I want to make sure this is exactly right. Because I was like, talked with him, and I was like, we can move it south, you know, that won't affect anything, you know, if need be, but we just can't go back to the east, then we're in that water slough. So, I can have the survey company, I mean, they surveyed it and stamped it and said it was
Yeah.
right, but I think what we need to do is just make sure he can answer why Mark came up with 20 or 19 feet, whatever it was. Difference.
So what you want to clarify is where their pin center on their tower,
Yes,
what that distance is to the north.
to that north
Boundary line.
property line, boundary line.
Is that what you're wanting to know?
Yeah, and I can discuss more during my presentation, but yeah, I don't want to take away from his presentation, but yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, you've probably put these up before with residents around them. Do you hear any complaints from people living nearby a tower?
After they're up, no. Always before, I mean, we've had, I mean, 5G it's a new technology and stuff like that. And if, it's like anything, if you can read both sides of the story. You know, like if you go to the FCC, they have all their mandates. If you go to somebody that has their own study out there, they'll have studies that it does all kinds of crazy stuff, you know, and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's reports all over. We're mandated by the FCC to follow the guidelines that's required and stuff. And I mean, once we put one up, we've never had anybody come back later and, you know, say, hey, we got sick from it, we got this, we got that, you know. So that's never happened. But I mean, there's always opposition when you go to put anything up. It's like anything. You got the people that, yes, they want it, want better coverage in their area, they want this. And then there's other people that do not like it, you know. So when we go out to find the area, we do RF studies for coverage area, and I'm always allotted about a mile area that, hey, this tower has to be within that mile area. So a lot of times to find one or two people that are interested in it, you know, sometimes it's hard, sometimes you got one person's like, yeah, I'm interested, and then the guy across the road says, well, I am too, you know. So we do run into that also, so.
The opposite of that question then is maybe people within sight of the tower, do they experience improved service?
Yeah, I mean, so the coverage area in that will improve significantly. The tower will be a 220-foot tower. You're probably the best coverage is going to be a mile away, you know, because that tower radiates out. You know, so there, a lot of times people will say, I'm right under the tower, I'm getting all the power. I mean, most of the power is going way past them out. So, but they will get, I mean, it's like anything. If you're right by that tower, you're going to have excellent service. The way them towers work, say it goes out and covers a 6-7 mile range, major disaster happens, and people start calling, it will shrink that coverage because it's more people on that tower. It's using more bandwidth or power, you know, so it will shrink the coverage. But as far as the coverage in the area, yeah, it'll greatly improve the coverage in the area. Yeah.
What is your expected timetable on the installation of this?
Yeah, so the expected timetable on this, we leased the ground probably 6 months ago. I did FAA, it came in. So it usually takes a year to get all the governmental stuff done. You know, as far as environmentals, soil samples, FAA, FCC.
I'm talking about.
Oh, to build the tower, start to finish, it's probably 4 days. They come in, they'll do the groundwork, the concrete work 1 week, and then it has to sit there and cure.
So now I'm confused about what is this statement about a temporary cell tower,
So-
150 feet high on wheels.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. It's not like a hay rack with a stick up 150 feet in the air.
Actually, what it is, so it takes so long to build these towers. We're wanting to get coverage in the area. So once we get through FAA and FCC and all the governmental stuff, there you go, look at Mark's on the ball. So what it is, it's just a trailer, just exactly like that. So what we do to get the service up and working while we're going through, waiting, because when we order the tower may take 6 months to come in. They have to get designed and they're specially built for that area. So once the conditional use permit's done, once we're FAA, FCC, all governmental compliance is done, we would just back that in there and set it up, and they could put the antennas on it, and it would start providing service right away. And that takes 3 hours to set up. It's very simple. That it lays down and that antenna you bolt the antennas right on here, and the cable comes down the side and it goes up and you're done.
Does it have guy wires on it?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
it
That's how
does.
you
Yeah,
get out
that's
there.
how it holds it in. It has some very small guide wires on it,
That's how you
it'd be
get
like a radio antenna.
150 foot in the air.
Yeah, just 150.
Off of a trailer.
Off a trailer, yeah. No, it won't sit there by itself. It has anchors that go out and they just screw in. They're temporary. We use them a lot at fairs or, some celebrations that are coming into town. If you just need additional coverage, they're just a quick thing to put up to get additional coverage. So what we'd be looking at doing is using that until the actual tower comes in, So it would probably only be there for, I'd guess, 3 months, before that tower was built and in. So, and depending on how long the conditional use permit takes, and say if the Indian tribes or something takes longer, that may never even get set up. It might just be to the point where it's down to the tower.
And
By the time it
the
comes.
permanent tower will be 250 feet or 220 feet?
It's 220 feet. Yep, it is a 220-foot tower. Yep.
As you're doing your exploration for this, did you explore any co-location opportunities?
So, with that tower, to go on other towers? Yes, yes.
For you to go on other towers?
Yes, that's the first thing we do, because it's so much easier and faster to get on another tower. But for the capacity and the coverage area, this was the area that we needed to be. Yeah, if we would have been, we've actually got, I think in Hutch, we've got 3 towers. I'm trying to think, we're on the Fairfield Inn Hotel. We're on a tower north on Plum Street. Can't think of the guy's name. He actually used to do RF studies out there. And then we're on, I think, an SBA tower on the south end of town. So we do have 3 towers in Hutch that we are currently co-locating on. But this one here, we didn't have any opportunity of anything else in the area.
Will there ever be in the future chance for someone to co-locate on your
Absolutely,
tower?
absolutely. Yep, that's, once they build it, if someone else needs to come into that area, they won't need to build another tower. And, we do allow, like that tower there, it'll hold 3 carriers. Depending on, sometimes Verizon will have a massive amount of stuff, then the tower might hold 2 carriers, but normal usage like Nextech Wireless, and you normally should be able to get 3 carriers on that tower. And that's like when you see a tower, the array that's on the top with one set of antennas and then the next one down, that's usually how many carriers that's on that tower. Like all the tower, the SBA one we're on here in Hutch, it probably has 3 tenants that are actually on it, as well as Doug Kaufman is.
And am I correct, that's how you make some extra money, selling that service to others?
Yes, if someone rents spot on that, yes. It would be income for Nextech. Yep, it would be, but a lot of times the cost of putting it up, it takes a while to get that back also, so.
So,
But you transmit or carry or whatever calls from other
carriers.
services?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, the way it works, you've got roaming on your phone. Say if you have, Verizon and you're out here in that area and the Verizon tower is too far away, you'll jump right over to this one.
Okay.
You have a roaming list on it, like Verizon might say, go to T-Mobile first, go to Nextech Wireless, and then go to AT&T, or vice versa. So like a storm comes through and knocks out one tower, everybody can jump onto the next tower. So they would go onto this tower in emergency and make their calls fine. And anymore, there's no roaming that shows up on you guys' phone like we had when we first, you'd see the dreaded R.
Yeah.
Now it's just, companies roam together, and then the payments are made on the backside. So,
We have a backup generator there?
yes, we will put a backup generator there for emergencies and stuff. And we do have a lot, like police departments and stuff like that want to go on these towers, and we do allow fire departments and police departments and stuff like that to co-locate on our towers. And a lot of times it's smaller city, things like that, we allow them to hook into our generator to, because if they're just putting a computer on there or something like that, it's just an opportunity just to have that service that's there.
Tower will have a flashing red light on it.
The tower, it'll be a medium red intensity with a white. So yeah, anything over 199 foot is regulated by the FAA to be lit and stuff. And we go medium intensity, so it's not the bright strobe, it's just a medium strobe and stuff. Yep. Yeah, 199 and above is mandated from the FAA.
Any other questions for the applicant?
May I ask you a question?
Nope, not yet.
You're fine. No, I've never done this before either, so.
Any more questions? Thank you.
I have a couple, Mr. Chair.
You go right ahead.
Craig, can we discuss the cell on wheels or CAL?
Yes.
A little bit?
Yep.
Is that gonna go on the lease area, or is that gonna be located somewhere else?
It will go right there, actually, since we did everything FAA, it'll go right on that spot.
there as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's well below, the way the FAA and FCC works, it'll fall under that. We can put that temporary cow there,
Yeah.
and it's more than governed on everything for,
So it has to be at the same lat lawn as your application.
correct? Yes, yeah, I can't just go put it, I mean, I can, but I have to get to the FAA and do a special permit. Like if I need to go to a fair or
Right.
Yeah.
after a
in this-
tornado comes through a town, I gotta call and get it.
In this case, you just go to your survey pin where this tower's going.
Yeah, so it's all like for the flight plan, and it's all already pinned and everything. So even though the tower, like if the tower wouldn't get built for 3 years, FAA still has that for the pilots and
Sorry,
everybody.
Mark, I hijacked your question.
Totally fine, yeah. And so then the CAL comes down and the new tower goes up, or the new tower goes up next to the?
No, they'll bring the cow
Bring
down.
the cow down and then-
They'll take it down, because like I said, it's probably a 3-hour
Yeah.
deal. I mean,
Right.
it cranks down, hydraulically comes down and lowers on the trailer, and you pull it with a.
Just curious, yeah, how that operation worked and get it on the record that way. So, okay.
Yep.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, guys.
Had a pretty lengthy discussion on this, so just want to kind of cover some of the major points with the planning commission here. So in the paper and to the property owners, it was noticed as a 250-foot tall tower. Since talking to Creighton, it's been reduced to 220 foot, so this board is allowed to go less than the 250 and still approve it, so there's no issue with that. Now, if it went the other way and he wanted 275 or a 300 foot, now we're looking at new notice and new publication in the paper. And so I just kind of want to make sure that that was clear with everybody, that you're allowed to go less than what was noticed. You just can't go greater than what is noticed in the paper. We've talked about the cell on wheels, or what we call the CAL. That would be part of this approval process. The way that would work, it'd just be a zoning permit from me. if this is approved, and then what happens is Creighton and I will get together and he'll decide how long he needs that up. And then we'll put a condition on the permit that says that this is allowed to stay up until such and such a date. And then after that, he would have to remove it or renew the zoning permit for that. We kind of talked a little bit about the setback concern. Our regulations do require equal height to all property lines. In my report, I called out the height of the tower and how far it is from the road right of way. But I also talked about this parcel to the north, and looking at the deed, it looked like it was about 19 foot short. And so really, the planning commission, I think, has a couple of options with that. And we're talking about the house that's up in here. The tower is going to be going in this location, and then the other property line in that house is up there. So with that, you heard testimony from Creighton that, yeah, we could reduce and go to the south and move the location. This area in here is where we're talking about like a lowland or a wetland area. That's why you can't go back further to the east. But we had conversations where you can maybe do a little bit of a jog and go to the south to gain that extra 19 foot and still be in compliance with the regulations. The other option is you have the engineered study from Sabre Industries here that says that the tower will not fall on anybody else's property, or at least onto that property line. And so this board could really have the option to have him bend it to the south a little bit to get that 220-foot distance. Or you can just accept the Sabre Industry letter that says the tower will fall within 110 foot. And I'm certainly not an engineer, but I think you should realize that towers are not designed to just lay over from the base. All the towers are designed to collapse among themselves into a certain radius, area. I believe engineers will tell you that. Like I said, that's my understanding of that. So really the board, can accept that letter stamped by an engineer, or if you feel as extra precaution, you could have him try and relocate that and bend that a little bit to the south here a little bit. I would tend to go with the engineer stamped approval and go that route and say that the location that he has right now is sufficient, because towers aren't designed to just lay over at their base. The tower does comply with all the other setback requirements. This is an overview of the gun club property, and so I say your tower is looking at going in this location up in here. I got a little bit of a blow-up shot of that area as well. So you can see maybe a little more prominently the wetland area, a bunch of trees. This is taken from 2023, the Google Earth shot. Looking at the property actually out there now, again, a 2023 shot of the approximate location. I don't have the exact location from there, but this is generally what you're looking at out there at the gun club property. And this would be looking back to the west at the two properties, which would be approximately the direct view of where the tower is. This again is what a cow or a sail on wheels, a typical one, not necessarily the one that they're going to put up, but that's what those look like. Again, as with all conditional usage permits, you need to review the factors and base your decision on those factors here. You heard testimony that a fence will be installed. There'll be a generator out there. What I would mention probably in conclusion really, and it's actually pretty important, is state statute has really limited your authority to really review cell tower proposals. I tried to cover a lot of those bases, but I've got a stack of statute, requirements in there that says you can't discuss this, you can't discuss, need in the area, location, types of tower, landscaping, all of that. We're basically looking at location on the ground, and does that meet our regulations that way? So it's pretty tough, for us to really place any types of conditions on towers like that. And so I did list a few of them in my report for this board to review and look at here, but that's by no means all of them. And they do the same thing with towers and road right-of-way as well. This one obviously is in the road right-of-way, but the same thing, it's limited our ability to really kind of review towers like they used to. Co-location really isn't an option, business practices, all that type of stuff, all those are really exempt from your review, so you can't say that we don't want this tower because you haven't proven that there's a need that's out there. So, looking at that, like I say, the concern was with that setback, but you do have his testimony said that they had the surveyor look at that. The deed to the property that I had and the way I calculated it seemed like a little bit different, but I think as a backup, you have the Sabre Industries letter that helps ensure that tower will stay on the gun club property. So with that, staff has recommended approval based off of the 11 factors, and then I attached seven conditions of approval to that. So I'll conclude my presentation and stand for any questions.
So Mark, are you comfortable, you're comfortable with the engineer drawing and the Sabre document in relation to where that tower is going to be located?
The drawing, I'm not so sure, because I say that a fall zone radius versus the deed to the property, I don't know if we're talking about the same exact thing, but to answer your question, I'm comfortable with the Sabre Industry letter saying that the tower will fall within a 110-foot radius. I mean, that's a pretty,
So using, I'm just speaking here, so I don't want to put words in your mouth. So using the 201-foot number.
yeah,
You're comfortable with that Sabre letter stating that we're good to go?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Any other questions for staff?
I might have a question.
Go right ahead.
Well, I'm thinking of the light on top, and thinking, I wasn't on the planning commission at the time, but when the wind tower proposal was in play, it seemed like that was kind of a big deal to people in the area, that they didn't want to see these lights out there. Is that, and I know now there's new technology that the light's only on when there's a plane in the area. Is there anything that we
Craig
should?
would be a better person to ask that question. I don't know if that technology really exists for cell towers, given the fact that it's just one structure versus a commercial wind farm where you're talking about where the technology is available to where the red light won't be on at night unless there's a plane that's overhead. I tend to think that technology probably would not be available if I had just, guess off the top of my head, but for the fact that, you have to have some type of radar, if you will, that's going to be able to detect an airplane in the area. So now you're looking at another structure out there that actually has to be able to see that there's a plane there to turn that light on at the tower. So I would tend to think, in my non-professional view, that would be a feasible thing to do, but I could be 100% wrong as well. But Creighton might be able to expand on that as well.
Any other questions for staff?
I would just say that we had a tower built a couple years ago, about a half mile from our house. I can see that light all the time, it doesn't bother me.
I can see 3 out my kitchen window.
Yeah. It's not that bright.
Thank you, staff. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this case, you may have 5 minutes to comment. Please come forward to the podium one at a time and state your name and address for the record before commenting. Audience members are only permitted to address the planning commission from the podium. Audience members are permitted only one time at the podium. In the interest of time, if you agree with the comments previously made by the audience members, please don't repeat the comments. Simply state you agree with the previous comments, then present new information to the commission. Statements and questions should only be directed to the planning commission, not the applicant or staff. Planning Commission may choose not to answer questions or engage with the public. Questions regarding the application can be asked of the Planning Commission and answered by the applicant during the rebuttal phase of this public hearing. Anybody that wants to comment this time?
Tim Davies, I live at 7304 North Lorraine, which is probably in here. But this property right here is owned by my brother and is currently occupied by my nephew. And he asked me specifically to come and talk because it's going to be basically right outside his window. And my question would be, your 8 golden factors, number J, is whether the proposed conditional use complies with the conditions and will it adversely affect the property in the surrounding area. There was a study by the real estate finance group that said that people within sight distance of the tower, their property values went down by 9.7%, and for people within half a mile, it was 2.5%. So you take on a $250,000 property, you're looking at about a $25,000 hit for this tower to be placed there. If you look like John, he lives back over here, okay? He's gonna be able to see the tower. He's gonna be in there. In the last 25 years, because I did the tax research and abstracted it, John's paid about $80,000 in property taxes to the state, the county, the schools. And the Central Kansas Gun Club is a great organization, but this big entity that has 350 members and hosts 350 events per year paid $22,000 in the same time frame. They're taxed currently as not for profit. They were previously agricultural. And like I said, it's a great organization. It does a lot for the city of Hutchinson, for the state of Kansas. But as far as helping to maintain this property area, they're doing very little as far as tax-wise. So if it's going to impact our taxes, I really don't want to see it. Plus, there's also other studies that say that, you know, it's like you said, there's studies both ways. But from the Harvard ethics, they've said that ethics committee, a study by Norm Astler, who said that the FCC is basically a captive agency controlled by telecommunications industry since 1996. So I don't know if I have a whole lot more to offer, but I would like to say I've had property and lived in that area for 64 years, my whole life. And I live on the property that my grandparents were there. And I really don't want to see a cell tower in my backyard. Would you want one in your backyard? Would you want to be able to look out your window and see a cell tower? If you had any questions, I'd be glad to answer questions.
Which property is yours?
Huh?
Which property is yours?
Well, this one is my brother's. This one is my brother's. This one's mine, this one's mine.
Okay.
This one's mine.
All right.
And the one between us is my uncle.
Okay.
Thank you.
Judy Trujillo, 7800 North Lorraine. And I'm the little odd-shaped, upside-down Oklahoma property. I'm a neighbor to the gun club, and I have many friends that are with the gun club. They're not good neighbors as a gun club. I got this letter a couple of weeks ago. And I just got told it's been 6 months that they've been dealing with this. I have a son-in-law that asked Mark the question about emissions and radiation and all of that. I didn't get a really good understanding of that. I'm not anywhere near the techie my son-in-law is. I do ask on the power density. I didn't hear exactly the words, but it's supposed to be under 1. And I think I heard a 1.9. Okay. I'm not sure on that. He deals with, in his occupation, he deals with this, and we're obviously not developing minds. We're all aged. Sorry, Tim. I'm more aged than Tim is. And my neighbor, his nephew, did not receive the letter. I asked him last night, was he coming to this meeting? And no, because he didn't know a thing about it. So I sent him what I had received from the county. I have concerns as to this emission, radiation, whatever you want to call it. I have concerns that there is, I don't know how many, crop dusters that fly very low over my trees that would be in that area. I had concerns about property valuation, and I don't know how good a neighbor's Next Tech is. But if I were to sell my property, what is it going to do to the value of my home? I didn't get a chance to ask my insurance agent as to if there was anything that would cause the insurance to go up. So there's lots of questions, lots of concerns. I had concerns about wildlife, and my son-in-law assured me that unless we have a carrier pigeon group in the area, that we shouldn't have concern about that. But I just think it was kind of short notice. I didn't have any ability to, my son-in-law obviously already knew everything, but to do investigations or take a long look at what is or isn't involving these. Yes, I know that 5G is wonderful, and I support progress, but I'm just concerned about what it does to our area. We moved out of the city to be rural, and yes, I've dealt with the gun club for years, and being in law enforcement, no problem. I can hear guns go off. It doesn't have a problem with that. The only thing I had a problem with was when the National Guard or the Army Reserve went out and did their loud flashbangs and all that. But that's just an area problem that we knew when we moved out there. So if you can answer my questions as to this radiation or emissions or whatever, in layman's terms, please. Because I have no knowledge of that.
You look at all this big old map, and everything around this except for this has one thing in common, is that it's all privately owned. So they approached the gun club, and why would they not want to go with this? They're going to get it paid. And every night, they're going to be able to go home to their homes and not see the, you know, the tower or anything else. They'll be able to enjoy their home. Can you go to, if you look at this, there's this white here, and then you see this white here. Can you go to the overview of the gun club? Because the first thing I asked Next Tech, I'm just good old boy, you know, I'm not an obstructionist or anything else, but I shoot at a gun club, okay? So they said that they couldn't go back here because of all the ammo or the shells or everything else, and because of the long range. Well, if you look, this is all the berms and these little hills, this is where they shoot from. So this is all short range, so I don't know how honest they're being as far as, you know, the threat back here. The long range is over here. And like I said, I've shot here where you shoot here, you shoot here. Actually, there's a berm here that you shoot at, there's a berm here you shoot at, and there's a berm back here that you shoot at, the long range. And I hate to admit it, my wife and I, when we shot, she outshot me on the long range, so that was very embarrassing. But that kind of gives you, I think they did have the option to put her back here, and they just didn't do it. Do you have even a broader overview?
I don't believe so. I think I got the narrow one there.
Okay.
The only thing I have is this one, John, is the aerial.
Okay, well, aerial. Okay, well, that's true. Okay, so if they would have been if they would have went around and really asked, I say, home, because they're not showing it, but there's 2 homes across from my place. Home. So within this quarter section, what are there, 12 residences? You know, you've got this back here that's all it's agriculture. All it is pasture. You got this one that's all pasture. I think there's a home way up north. You got this which is pasture. You got residential. You know, I don't think they just went, you know, what they did is they went around looking and they finally found a group that, hey, you know what? We're going to get the money. We don't have to live with it. And so they got the gun club to go. Okay, so as I mentioned, I get nervous, and I'm very nervous right now. And I quiver. And I'm going to read a statement real quick. I hope it's not too long-winded. I hope I stay within 5 minutes. It gets a little winded. Believe it or not, I talked to a lot of my neighbors and said, man, why don't you come down there? And they just basically told me it would do no good. The planning commission, they've already decided, and like they said, he's been working on it for 6 months, and we just found out, and I was kind of advised this week, or, you know, in the last couple of weeks, this has already been rubber stamped. It doesn't really matter what we say. And so with that being said, I'm going to say good evening to all. I would like to thank the Reno County Planning Commission for allowing us the opportunity to be heard. To be honest with you, I do not believe for a second it will do us any good. I've been told that this project has been rubber stamped, and I believe this is to be so. If you drive up to where they are proposing to build the cell tower, you will find that the land has already been cleared and leveled. I do not believe for a second that Next Tech Wireless would have paid to have all this work done if they were not absolutely positive that the project had not already been rubber stamped. So what really brings us together this evening is simple: the power of money, greed. Next Tech found a parcel of land where the occupants would see the money and care less of what effect it would have on its neighbors. You see, the members of the Central Kansas Gun Club of Reno County will be able to go home every night, miles from the gun club. They will not have to look at the tower every day. They will not have to worry about what effect it will have on its property value, which we've already found it's going to be detrimental. They will not have to worry about the health concerns emitted from the tower. The irony of this situation is baffling, and this kind of gets personal. And again, it's all the regulations of everything in the county. In Reno County, we cannot buy a parcel of land less than 40 acres and build a house. My wife and I, Deanna, own 60 acres. We've owned it since 1997. Her sister and brother-in-law live in California. They are considering moving. We discussed with them the option of building a home on our parcel of land. When I called the county to inquire about them building a home on our property, it was a no. Dividing, acreage amount, frontage, depth of property, easements, you name it. What's the average cost of an acre of land in and around Hutchinson now? It's $3,000, $4,000 or more. Not everyone has $120,000 to buy a parcel of land so they can build a home. To me, it sounds like the Reno County Commissioners do not want the population to grow within the county. And I'm not going to get personal, but over the last 12 years, Reno County population has decreased 4.7%. McPherson County has increased 3%, and overall Kansas has increased 2%. So we're not doing something right, and we're not friendly. We're not friendly to the constituents. We're not to us taxpayers. Danny Weot, who's going to be directly affected, and then Brian will too, or Bounds, they're going to be directly affected. Danny's got what he considers a $450,000 house. It's a beautiful house, a nice bar, or a nice barn that has a bar in it, so it's very neighborly. So he lives across the street, directly from where the tower will be erected. When the Jansons built the home back in 2002, they built the home back off the road, so you can see where it's actually, it's back here. So there's a lot of frontage here. And so when he called Reno County recently to inquire about erecting an additional building, he was advised that he was advised in order to build the building between the home and the road, he would have to get approval from all the neighbors. I mean, I don't get that, guys. Yet a cell tower can be built without the neighbor's approval. So Danny will have to get all the neighbors' approval if he wants to build a building between his home and Lorraine. And I just don't see where you're friendly. And like I said, these guys can come in, offer money to a group of guys or people that have, that aren't going to be affected by property value or anything else. It's very concerning that that there are restrictions within the county that will prevent Dion and I from building a second home or from Danny erecting another structure where he would like. Either scenario would not affect our neighbors in the least, but you will allow a third-class cell company to erect a cell tower in what would be considered a rural residential neighborhood. Guys, you see it. Home, 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 home. Two homes, home, 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 home. And then how would you like to be this guy? This tower, he lives here. It's going to be within 400 feet of his home. I mean, who would really want that? You talk about backyard, that's your front door. And so it's very irritating. Either scenario, there are 9 residential areas and it will affect it, okay. And again, aesthetics, we know that. He can say, that, hey, yeah, we get questions before. We never get questions after. Why are you going to question or complain? It's already done. I mean, what good is it going to do? And so it will affect the aesthetics of the surrounding area. It will affect the property values. And yes, there is a possibility that it will affect the health of those living nearby. There has been numerous studies that show cell towers will not affect the health of those living in the area. For every study that shows there should not be health concerns surrounding cell towers, there's a study that counters their findings. There was a study done in Germany. They discovered that the proportion of newly developed cancer cases was 3 times higher for those living within 1,300 feet or a quarter of a mile of a cellular transmitter. Again, it's whatever you want. I mean, if you want to believe it's not going to affect, you're going to believe it. If you believe it's going to affect, you're going to believe it. We're back to the power of money. Yes, money. Do you honestly believe that there's health concerns involving cells, or that if there is health concerns involving cell towers, that we would really, or that they would really acknowledge such findings? With the money the cell tower industry makes and the amount of money the industry has paid our legislators, and don't think that it hasn't, really, not a chance. It's all about the power of money. Who are you to believe you will? Who are you to believe? You will most likely believe the study that best aligns with your interests. There were approximately 19 homes within a quarter mile of the cell tower, and one within 400 feet. There are several thousand acres in north of Hutchinson. Most in less densely populated, less densely populated. I can't read either. I'm asking Reno County. I'm asking you guys to be fair. I want you to consider, the Reno County, your constituents. Again, we're going to have to deal with this. We're going to lose value, and we'll just leave it at that. I'm asking you guys to either, and I already asked him, and the gentleman I get nervous, so I forget your name. We had a nice conversation beforehand. I have no enemies. I love everybody. I was asking him, can you not move to the northwest corner? And that's where he told me, well, because of the shooting range, everything else. Well, that's not true. It's all here. There's nothing back here. I just don't see where that was. I think what they're doing is they're putting it at convenience, but it's going to obstruct all of us and this. And our values. In closing, no, let's not do that. Let's populate everybody. Well, guys, that's about it. Like I said, there are studies that will affect our health. There are studies that it won't. I would rather protect our constituents than find out later on if they have cancer. It's going to affect our property values. If Danny's property value is $400,000, well, basically Tim just said he's lost $40,000. And so, in closing, I realize I should stop here, but as Deanna says, I have no filter. I'm a very compassionate person, people. I love everybody. I'm no better than anybody else. You go to Kansas City with me, I talk to the homeless. I'm not better than anybody else. But I'm asking for you guys to put yourself in our shoes, you know? And I want to know here in a minute, and you can ask because I can't ask them directly, how many customers does Next Tech have in this area? What percentage of cell customers does Next Tech have that they want to disrupt our lives? They want to devalue our property. They may even potential bring hazard to our health. For what? And so, guys, that's where I'm going to leave it. And I just hope that, you know, you take in consideration our situation. I understand there's cell towers all over the city. And when people move to the city, they know they're going to be living within 20 or 40 feet of people. When we moved to the country, when Deanna and I built our house in 2002, 22 years ago, we had a lot of privacy. I'm going to be able to wake up every morning and look across at our sunrise, which we take pictures quite often, and we're going to see a cell tower. But to me, it affects these people more as far as the hazard, because they are within 1,300 feet or within a quarter of a mile, and it could actually affect their health. And what really brings this home to me is there's a really nice family that lives next to us that has 5 boys. And I'm telling you what, if one of them get cancer because of this, that's on you guys. Because, I mean, I love people, so, and that's where we're at. And Mark, you pretty much told me, and you pretty much told them there's not a thing we can do. Well, I think there is. I think they can say no, and we can go back to the drawing board. They can find another location that is less populated. So guys, that's me, and I love my neighbors. I appreciate the ones here. A lot of them didn't show up for the fact is they just don't have a lot of faith in our Reno County Commission Planning Board or our county. Boy, that's winded. My wife says I got the gift for gab.
Is there any other comments? Okay. Does the applicant wish to rebut any statements made?
Yes.
We'll give you.
I'll go quick.
We say 2 minutes, but we'll give you a little leeway.
I just jotted down a few. I think it was Judy. Was it? Okay. As far as the FAA, you know, the crop dusters, that is why we do the FAA. It'll be a notification for them. I mean, that's a huge thing for the FAA that they know that there's a tower going up. They'll get a notification to know, so there's be no accidents. As far as you're asking about here, I'm going to give you one of these documents to give to your, was it your son-in-law? Okay, so that shows right there, and my RF engineer is actually watching this and stuff. So he brought up also on here. So on page 8 is a power density. You'll see 1,900 megahertz that we're running. For general population, it's 1. Like you said, the power density that we are putting out is 0.0092. So we are just way below that. On the 600 megahertz, the power is 0.43. For the general population, our power density is 0.0058. So that percentage is extremely far under the FCC set amount. And that is directly at the tower. When you're farther away, it just completely drops even more. Talking about power out in the area for the people in the surrounding area, there's a FM tower right here at Hutch, 100,000 watts. Ours, 80 watts. So, I mean, if you're looking at power outages, them FM towers blast power. And then actually that's, I think, east of town. And then actually there's a 570 watt FM1 that covers downtown also. So just so you know, they were talking about the percentage of customers that Next Tech Wireless has in this area. I don't have a percentage actually for this area, but we do have 66,000 customers that we provide service for. So it is we're not a third-rate class cellular company. We do provide a lot of coverage for the customers in Kansas. Let's see if there was anything else. Talking about the 6 months, and they're just now getting notified to build a tower. I mean, it's 3 months of coming out, scouting the area, finding locations. It's not like I come down, bang, I got a location. You know, I get shot down by a lot of people. I get people that want more money. I get people that are interested, but then someone else is interested before they come back to me. So it's not a quick deal to do this. And then doing the zoning is kind of the furthest down the line, because we got to make sure FAA and the surveys, the geos and everything like that will even pass. Because if we do when we come to do the survey or the zoning and all that stuff, they want the surveys, they want all that information. So it's not like we can just do this zoning right away and be done. So that's where that comes in. And as far as in the area, they did not. The gun club, I went to a meeting. I can't think of the shop that I went to. They have monthly meetings. I think it's monthly or bi-monthly or something. I went and proposed this whole site to them, all their board members, everything. Their attorney was there and everything like that. Being back here, you know, that's a big no-no for them. I mean, a stray bullet hit some stuff, insurance, it would come back on them. You know, so they absolutely did not want us in the back part of their deal, just for safety reasons. And, you know, that's why we moved up here. I think that's about everything. I mean, everything else is, you know, there's a lot of reports out there, and you can, like he said, you can read them from both sides. So, does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
And I do have, I don't know if anybody else wants one of the maximum exposure deals. I do have an extra one if someone does. Thank you.
Yes, I do have a question.
Okay,
It is
sure.
the far corner back there that has been implied it's further away from residences, and you say that members of the gun club didn't want it back there, but is there any reason why it can't be there? Assuming that the gun club, if they're not wanting it there, is
Yeah,
not.
they did not want it there. That was one of their stipulations. They did not want it there. I'm assuming, you know, I don't think if I owned a property, I wouldn't want it where if something would hit it, you know, when they're shooting guns. I know they say, okay, we're only shooting here and here. There's ricochets, there's all kinds of stuff, you know what I mean? We've got antennas and high dollar electrical equipment. That's probably why they did not want it in that location. I site walked it with, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but it was 3 board members. And this was the location they came up with that they would propose that site to go into.
Now, for a fact, a lot of the shooting does occur to the east on some of the pistol ranges, rifle ranges and whatnot.
Yes.
And I also know that there have been ricochets over the years that have even crossed their eastern boundary.
Yeah, I'm sure, I mean, yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Staff, do you want to rebut?
Couple of things related to this case. We did notify everybody within 1,000 feet of the entire property boundary. And so with that type of situation, this board does have the ability to suggest additional locations or require additional information as to whether a site back here is viable or a site back there is viable. You would have that type of latitude to table this hearing and require additional information or documentation being submitted if other locations are a viable use because of the fact that we notified the whole property. They didn't have to do that. The little 50 by 50 lease area, they could have just applied for a conditional use permit on that 50 by 50 lease area, and then your 1,000-foot radius would be just around that lease area. They chose not to do that. They chose to go with the parcel like that. So more people were notified of this hearing. The 1,000-foot is a statutory requirement. We don't go any less than that. We don't go any more of that. So if you have situations down here, people didn't get notified, yeah, they could be potentially affected by that, but they're not statutorily required to be notified of the public hearing. It's also published in the Minnesota Valley newspaper where they could read that. People that are outside the notification area, such as Mr. Davies, he's here tonight. They're certainly allowed to come and make comments on any kind of case that they see. Second thing that I want to discuss here is statute 66/2019. You can thank your state and/or federal legislatures for limiting your ability and what you can and cannot review with cell tower cases. There is a whole long laundry list of things that are out of your discretion to review anymore. You can certainly look at location. Like I said, you can look at setbacks, so long as the setback requirements aren't any different than we would require for any other type of tall structure that's out there. But, you know, it's not Reno County regulations that say that, oh, we're rubber stamping this, as some other people would suggest here tonight. It's the fact that we're limited by what the statute says. Okay. If you permit me a little bit of latitude, Mr. Chair, I'd like to discuss a couple of other comments regarding property 16. I don't recall ever talking to him. We did change our regulations in 2016 that now says if you want to build a certain square size building over the square footage, you have to go through a special exception process to be able to get that approved. It doesn't require the approval of the property owners, such as was suggested before. It does require a special exception. In 2016, we did change the regulations that now permits a person to build a large building out in front of their houses. That was a regulation that we relaxed out there to give more ability to issue permits instead of going through public hearing processes. Regarding Mr. Fehrenbacher's property here, we did have a long discussion about him building a second house. Current regulations does prevent a 20-acre split in the agricultural district. That is a text amendment that this board is wanting to look at potentially in the future at changing. As the current regulations go, a 20-acre split is not permitted. We did discuss him building a second house on the property. He could potentially do that through an agricultural lot split down here with the road frontage, or he can do what we call a homestead agricultural lot split. We heard one of those last month. That is another potential option for him to be able to do something like that. So I did not say that he's prevented from building a second house on the 60 acres. With that, I conclude my comments.
Thanks, Mark. Does this commission have any further questions? Or? Okay. No. Order. Okay. Since there are no other questions, the public hearing is now closed. Acceptance or denial of this conditional use permit must be based on the factors that are listed in the staff report and found in the chairs. This is the time, at this time, the planning commission will discuss the case and ask procedural, and will only be allowed to ask procedural questions of staff only.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I know our county commissioners pretty well. I've seen them act upon many things. I think they will review this record, and I have great concern that they wouldn't approve it. And that's only my opinion, but that therefore I recommend or move that we table this issue and see if the applicant wants to reconsider their location.
Okay, it's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second that.
Been moved that we table this to, okay, we got to get a date. Do we need to put a date and time that I'm asking procedural now. Do we need to put a date and time or just next regular scheduled meeting on the agenda?
Are we tabling this?
For the applicant to review alternate locations
On that property, and so then
either on that
table it to
probably the next scheduled meeting be sufficient time. I would say to give him, if he needs more time, then we get more time. I would think he could probably get that letter or documentation to this board next month. And so I would say the next regular scheduled meeting is May 16th, 2023 at 4:30 PM. And so we do it then.
Is that okay to put that with that motion? Harp?
Yeah, that is good. And I trust it's okay with the second, okay.
Okay, any discussion on that motion?
Yeah. I don't know about the county commission, what they may or may not do. I kind of hesitate to anticipate a decision. I guess my preference would be to make our own decision. And if I'm thinking right, the county commission can overrule us with, probably takes a supermajority of the county commission, is that correct?
That's correct. So your decision, whatever it may be, can be overturned by the county commissioners by a supermajority vote, which is 4 out of 5 of them. You might have witnessed that during our solar regulation discussion if you were following that. Yes, to change your decision, whatever that may be, takes a supermajority vote. So the option also would be the commissioners could send it back to the planning commission, such as what they did with the solar regulations, for further clarification or study by this board.
Point of clarification, as I understand it, the motion Harley made would be basically for relocating the site only on the gun club property. Is that correct?
That was my intent.
Because if they wanted to relocate it elsewhere, then we'd just have to start this whole process all over.
New public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to decide, a decision needs to be made on this site, whether it's in that location or another location on that site.
Okay, any other discussion on this motion to table? Staff, you want to call the roll on that motion, please?
Strand?
No.
Seltzer?
Yes.
Macklin?
Yes,
Martin?
No.
Gertson?
No.
Motion failed.
Any further discussion on this case? Chair will entertain a new motion.
Well, I understand the concern, and as I said before we got into this, I can see 3 of these things out my kitchen window. We live over close to the Bureau Haven Road, and the towers from about 43rd to 4th Street, there's 4 towers there. And maybe they've just become like wallpaper to me now, I don't know. I certainly appreciate the service that we all get these days from towers being wherever they are. They're everywhere. And probably nobody likes to see them, but if we have to find that balance, what we accept and what we want. And I find it hard to believe that we would find a location that we wouldn't get pushback from whoever lived close by. I mean, I understand that. I really do. So it's a hard decision to make. The other point I'll make is I've looked at a lot of appraisals over the years, and I've never seen one that has, appraisal goes through pluses and minuses. I've never seen one out of literally thousands of appraisals that referred to a cell tower deduction in value. That's just my personal experience.
I look at one out my front window every night, it doesn't bother me a bit. I was glad when they put it up, because I had hoped that we'd get a little better coverage, and we got a little better coverage. I also never come to this meeting with my mind already made up. I listen to what everyone says, and then I make what I think is the best decision for the county.
No question.
No, I think you did.
Yeah, you
Well,
do.
No,
Actually,
no, you don't get a chance. I'm not gonna, I'm just making comment to this commission. Now you just need to listen here. I think this board does a darn good job of looking at what staff puts in the packet. We get the packet about the time that the letters go out to the public, okay? So we get to see it about the same time you do. We gather our information, same way you do. We pull our boots on the same way you do. We make the best decision with these 5 heads here today, where there's usually 7. So it's hard not to take it personal. That's just my statement. I would echo what Jack and Garth say. You know, I live not far from Garth. I get to see some flashing lights from time to time. Whether they're wallpaper or not, like you meant, that was a great description. I don't know that. It might be just the same as my neighbor's yard light. If it's on all night, is that something that I recognize that's a bother to me? Probably is. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, don't know. But nonetheless. Our job is to look at placement and take the advisement of staff per the conditions that he's described. That's just where I'm headed with that. So I will entertain a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I will move that case number 2024-04, the request by the Central Kansas Gun Club of Reno County Incorporated, applicant Next Tech Wireless, requesting a conditional use permit from the Reno County zoning regulations to construct a not-to-exceed 220-foot tall telecommunications tower on land zoned AG Agricultural District be approved based on the 11 factors and 7 conditions listed in the staff report as heard at this public hearing. I would further move to grant a waiver to the setback requirements as found in Article 15-105-52A based on the stamped engineering letter from Sabre Industries.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, staff, please call the roll.
Strand.
Yes.
Seltzer.
I'm thinking. Say yes.
Macklin.
I'm going to say yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Gertson.
No.
Motion approved.
Motion carries.
4-1.
Okay.
This will go on to the county commissioner's agenda sometime, probably a month, based off of their deadlines and stuff. So they'll review this decision. And they refer it back. Okay, I'll be in touch with the applicant on that. If anybody else wants to know, you can check the county commissioner's website. Usually, no public is allowed to comment since the public hearing has been closed, but you're obviously welcome to sit in on that meeting with the county commissioners as well.
Is there any other business you need to bring before us?
I don't have any business tonight, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Does the board have any other new business that needs to be brought before? Any discussion? And the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Gentlemen, I do apologize.
It's been moved to adjourn. Do I hear a second? All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. All opposed,